everyone, this is Teresa from Base 10 Montessori, and today I want to show you a material that I made as an extension for my movable alphabet. Now, if you're an AMI teacher, you're probably noticing that I have a movable alphabet that's print, and it's also made of paper. Now, the reason why I'm doing that, well, actually there are two reasons why I'm using this. The first reason is that all my language materials are back ordered from Montessori Outlet. I ordered them in April and they are still back ordered. So that's reason number one. And the second reason is that I'm actually going to use this as a reading work. So what I created, even though I'm using the movable alphabet, it's really complementary to the reading area, but you can always use it as a writing work if you would like. So think about the purpose as we're going through this. If you're looking at this and thinking, I like the idea, but I'd rather use it as a reading work, or I'd rather use it as a writing work, then adjust the movable alphabet as needed to decide, would it be better with print or cursive? Now, with that being said, the lesson I'm about to show you is going to come probably after Object Box 1. So if we're using this as a reading work, we're going to put this away. And I am going to do a reduced movable alphabet. And that basically means I'm just going to take a few letters, put it in a basket, and then I am going to take this mat and put it with it. Now, what is this right here? Let's unfold it. Now, if you're just looking at it, you can probably guess what we're going to do with this. It has pink, blue, pink. And what is that? That is the CVC word format. We're going to work on the short vowel sound words. And so I like to call this a sensorial impression of syllables. So we're going to work on our first syllable today, and that is the CVC. So when I introduce this work, usually what I do is I just get out my letters. You can have more or less depending on what the needs are in your classroom. I've used this in elementary a lot, and it tends to work pretty well in there because really in elementary, they're past the movable alphabet, right? That they're not very interested in this. But if you can go with maybe a smaller basket for those who are struggling, just a smaller basket of letters, it's not intimidating, right? They might need something like this, but they don't tend to want to do it because they're not in that age of development where this is appealing to them anymore. So I would say this is really great for elementary students, but think about whether or not you would like to do this with primary as well. Now, when I get this out, they're going to see that the colors match, right? So you might want to put one or two vowel sounds, but let's just start with one vowel sound. Ah, right? Okay, well, what could go here? Let's do the last sound right here. What is that sound? T. Now, if you have a child that's really struggling with reading even the CVC words, here's what I'll suggest. Fold that under and just start out like that. If the child is having trouble blending, start out with the middle sound and blend to the end. So let's say we have a child that we tried doing CVC. It's a little too hard. Let's simplify it and just do this. And do at, at, at. So without the child actually even trying to make a word, they made a word. And for a child that's maybe behind, for a child that's struggling, that's pretty empowering. That's pretty exciting. Now, we've got the at sound, right? What happens if we put this in front? K, at, cat, cat. If we can get them to make that at sound, that's one less thing they have to think about when you put a beginning sound on. So you're going to do k, k, cat. And a lot of the times when they have trouble blending between these two, it's because they're spending too much time between the two. It's got to jump off that and go straight to the next one. So we want to speed up the process between getting from the first sound to the second sound. So if they're doing the k, at, and they're not hearing it, just make sure they go pretty fast off the first sound. So for instance, cat. So that's how I would use this. And if you're in primary and you're using a sensorial impression of the CVC, I would not tell them that it's a sensorial impression of the CVC mat. I just call it the first blending mat. Just keep it real simple, right? So you can switch it up, right? Mat. You can also put it in a different way, right? You can change it up. And as long as they're matching color to color, it doesn't really matter what word they make, right? And they can sound it out. Now, if it's a writing work, they don't have to really sound it out, right? Maybe what they do instead of reading it, they can just find the a, k. If they don't read it, they don't read it. But maybe they're making the sounds as they put it there. And while they're doing that, they're really reinforcing that CVC concept, right? It's a sensorial impression of the syllable. If you want to put these mats with the movable alphabet as a writing work, then the purpose is in making a word. They feel like they're making a word, right? They understand the format of making a word is the pink, blue, pink. So that's really the goal if you're using it as the writing work, is simply to get that impression of the pink, blue, pink, which is the short vowel sound. Now, if you're in elementary and you want to give that specific lesson, you can go ahead and say, when we have the pink at the end here, at, it closes the sound off, right? So it's a closed syllable. It makes this say ah. But what if we did something else? And this is where you can switch to the open syllable, right? The long A sound. So if you get through that CVC and you want to go to the consonant vowel, if you want to do the long vowel sound and you want to do a lesson on that, just fold it this way and say, you know what? Let's sound this out. Ah. Oh, there's nothing there. It's open. Well, that means there's nothing to stop the sound. And if there's nothing to stop the sound, then the A gets to say its own name, like May. And so you can fold it over to do a different lesson. Say, okay, well, let's take a look. If we fold it this way, look at that. The pink stops it. Am. It can't say its own name because the pink or the consonant stops the sound and it makes it say the short sound. So you can fold it a couple of different ways to show those two different lessons. And right here, I'm not going to go through this today, but I have a phonogram one, and this is a phonogram that has to do, let's say, consonant digraphs. And you can tell because I put it with pink underneath. And if you want to do a phonogram with vowels, let's say vowel teams or our controlled vowels, I did one like this, where it's on the blue. So that signals that it's going to involve a vowel. So this is the material that I created to show a sensorial impression of syllables. And again, we're going to use a reduced movable alphabet. If you want to use it for reading, the child is going to use this for blending the sounds together. And if you're using it for writing, switch this to a cursive movable alphabet. And the child doesn't have to sound it out, but maybe they want to go through and make the sounds as they build it. And what would the purpose behind that be, right? What's the purpose for this? Well, first of all, it's to have an impression of the syllables. Second of all, if you're using it for reading, it's going to help with blending, right? And the third purpose, if you're using this for reading, the child can feel confident that they are making words. Whether they're nonsense words or real words, they're still words, right? And so maybe that's the boost that the child needs. Now, they're not just working on something they had in primary when everybody else has moved forward, right? If you're using this for elementary, this is going to be a different use for the movable alphabet that might help them feel a little bit less intimidated by all those letters. Now, if you're trying to use a movable alphabet with a child with ADHD, and that's either in primary or elementary, you might have noticed that all of these letters end up on the floor. And the pile and the mess just seems to grow and grow and grow and never gets cleaned up and never gets reorganized, right? I would put that to the side. I would get your reduced movable alphabet out. You can do a sensorial impression. Have them just play with building words. And if they're reading it, they really love the nonsense words. It's not about spelling. It's not about correcting them at this point in time. It's about building words or sounding them out, depending on how you are going to put it in your classroom. So it might be a confidence booster for children who just need a little bit of an accommodation somewhere in the reading or writing area. So that is all I have for you today. If you like what you saw here, give this video a thumbs up, like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.